Well, welcome back.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I forgot my pen. Let me grab that. Thank you for coming in today. I know it's been really kind of busy
And love.
for both me and for you, I'm sure. So I gave you a copy of the agenda. What we'll do is we'll just start by kind of talking about what you've been up to, and then we'll do a little reflection and talk about that, and then we'll look at your goals that we had identified in the beginning, see where we are with those, and then we'll talk about next steps and that kind of thing.
All right.
Okay, sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, so why don't you start by telling me what kind of things you've been up to and how those are going.
So, along with doing my regular job duties, I've been really, conscientious and thoughtful about the goals that we laid out before, and have been working hard to, really shadow and observe things that I can, and just being really sort of a reflective practitioner.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about what you mean by being reflective.
Just, really writing out the goals was really helpful because I actually put them beside my computer, and so they're always sort of in my head, and so, I try to apply what I've learned through my observations of teams and things like that, apply that to, everything that I'm doing right now, just sort of like letting it be a part of everything I'm doing.
Okay, and how is that going?
Good. I'm glad I wrote them down and have them, to look at.
Okay, so tell me what kind of feelings you've had about doing some of these things, and what kind of things have you been doing?
So I had the opportunity to shadow you a few times in some particularly critical meetings. And you had the opportunity to come and take a look at me and give me some feedback. And so that feedback that you gave to me has been really helpful too, just in the words that I use and in the way that I approach conflict has been helpful.
I know that you said that, in the beginning, one of the goals that we identified was that, you felt a little bit more uncomfortable when there was conflict. And so that's part of the reason why we had you shadow me and why I came to see you. So tell me, I know originally you had said that conflict makes you uncomfortable and that you didn't really know what to do, that kind of thing. Tell me how the shadowing activities have helped with that. And are you still feeling really uncomfortable? Is it feeling a little bit better? How is that feeling for you?
I think it's probably true of anything. The more exposure you have to something, the more comfortable you feel with it. I don't know that I'm ever going to be the kind of person who's like loving a fight. But I think in watching you handle difficult situations has helped me sort of remember the things that I can do, sort of like staying focused on the task at hand. So always keeping, especially particularly in IEP team meetings, keeping the child at the center and what's best for the child, and always coming back to the data in front of us. I think, and as long as we focus on those two things, and come back to those, and really making sure the parent feels heard, and I think, you always do a really nice job of making sure that the parent feels like whatever concerns they have been brought to the table and have been addressed. Even if we don't give them exactly what they want, we've heard them. So that's been helpful, and it's been it's been eye-opening to be privy to some meetings that I haven't really seen before and see how conflict is resolved within like an administrative team, even beyond outside of an IEP team. So.
Okay. And, hopefully nobody is totally comfortable with conflict, I would hope. But, certainly you can learn those procedures or skills to help with that. And you mentioned a bunch of them, keeping the child at the center, using data, really letting the parents feel heard. I know that we had talked a little bit about active listening and really kind of keying into the parent and what they're saying, and so tell me how that's been going.
Good. A strategy you use all the time is you will repeat back what someone says to you. So like I hear you saying, and you repeat it back, and so that way sort of everyone hears it again, and then you can, it also make sure that that person knows that you heard them. And another piece of that too is I had the opportunity to go to a professional development on like policies and procedures, exceptional children's policies and procedures, and that really helped a lot too because it really built my confidence as far as like knowing procedures, you know, and the more you know, the better you are.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was really helpful too. It was a 2-day workshop. So.
Well, that's great, and that is something that we had talked about as a next step, was to have you do some professional development around the special ed piece, because I know that was part of what you talked about that contributed to you kind of feeling uncomfortable in some of those meetings, and maybe not knowing the right answer to deal with some of that conflict, and so I'm glad that was helpful. So let's kind of go back to, I just want to pick a little bit more about that uncomfortableness, because I know that was a big thing for you, and that was kind of like the first thing that came up when we talked. And so I just want you to just kind of reflect a little bit about, you know, it seems to me, and what I'm hearing is that you seem to be less uncomfortable. And I hear you that it'll never go away, and you know, like I said, I hope it doesn't, because you want to be a little bit uncomfortable.
Right.
But I also want to, you know, hear how that progressed for you. So tell me a little bit about like the first time you did it versus the second versus the third, and what you think the difference was between those meetings, other than practice.
You know, in the first IEP meeting I sat in, I felt comfortable. The ones that you sat in with me, I felt very comfortable because I knew if I did anything wrong, you would speak up, you know, so that was helpful. But once I was sort of on my own, it was more about reminding myself of, you know, what's at the center of this and what needs to be the focus of the meeting. And as long as I have a focus, it's sort of like when you're in labor, right? Like you have a focus and, you know, you're getting through, but you have a focus, and the child and the data is the focus there. I don't know that really answered your question.
No, it did, and actually I really like your analogy of being in labor, because IEP meetings can certainly be like that. I've been in a few where I felt like I gave birth, but yeah, that's good.
It does get easier. You know, just now in the thick of what we're doing right now, we have a lot of parents calling, wanting us to change their assignments, and they want us to give them this and, you know, change this and do this. And every time I give the same answer over and over again, it gets a little easier every time. They're not happy, you know, but I feel like I validate what they're saying, and then I say, this is why we can't do that. And I, you know, give our reasons based on our policies and our procedures. And I think that has been helpful to know those policies and procedures clearly and to be able to articulate them.
And you actually just outlined exactly what you said before, that, you know, you let the parents feel heard, then you actually use the data, which would be telling the parents exactly what the procedures are and what we need to do, and then keeping the child at the center of that, and, you know, really assuring the parents that you're hearing them, but they might not get what they want, but, you know, that you're hearing them. So that's great. Well, good. I'm glad that those are working out for you. I wanted to just kind of review the rest of the goals and next steps that we had talked about, because I want to make sure we're on track for all of those. We did talk about the professional development, and you shared that you went to a 2-day conference, and so is that something that you want to keep pursuing? Is that okay?
Yeah, I do. I think of the two things that we've sort of been working on at meeting and talking about. Having that experience and then also being able to shadow have been the two most important things that I've done.
Okay, so we'll continue on with that goal and that step. And that, you know, kind of went along, that next step went along with the goal of gaining more special education knowledge.
Yep.
And so, you know, the one thing about special education knowledge that I can kind of share is that it changes constantly. So, you know, it's not something, even if you've been doing this for 25 years, you may still have areas where, you know, something will come up and you'll be like, whoa, I've never heard of that, or, you know, so I want you to know that all of us kind of feel that way sometimes.
Sure.
The more you learn, the better able you are to handle those situations, but it's still okay to say, I don't know, or I need to look that up, or, you know, that kind of thing, because we can't all know every area for every disability, especially where we are, because we have Duke Children's Center, and so we get some children with some very rare disorders or some genetic type things that, none of us have ever heard of. And
Right.
so, sometimes we're gonna have to research and ask parents to share things with us and that kind of thing, and that's okay. But I'm glad that you're feeling a little better with the basic knowledges
yes.
and feeling like you're, starting to get that flow, and that's great. And that is kind of what I saw in the meetings that I observed you in. You appeared to be more confident, you appeared to feel more comfortable. Even today, you seem a little more relaxed and a little more comfortable, and so that's a really good thing that, shows me that we're building a relationship and a rapport, and so that is important to the coaching as well, because I want to make sure that, we talked the first time about confidentiality and trust and those kinds of things, but I want to make sure that you're feeling that as well.
I am.
Oh, good, okay, because, that's going to be essential for our coaching to be effective, and I want it to be effective for you and for me, because we're learning together.
Right.
You also talked about kind of looking at structure, the structure in the buildings, and making sure that the classrooms were structured appropriately and that kind of thing. So tell me a little bit about that. How has that been going, and have you done anything
Got some
surrounding
new
that?
plans. I haven't actually done any more work on that, but I have quite a few plans in place to target specific classrooms and the structure within those classrooms that are designed for students that require high structure. So I've come up with some plans regarding that. Not any like boots on the ground work with that, but that's coming in this coming year. That's going to be a big focus of mine, prioritizing those classrooms.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your plans?
Sure.
What kind of things are you looking at?
It's going to involve some half-day professional development with our highly structured teachers. There are 5 of them, and so we're going to do some half-day professional development. We're going to do some web-based learning, so we're going to be watching some voiceover PowerPoints regarding evidence-based practices, and then we're going to analyze those, and then I'm also, to back up just a little bit, I'm going to do an evaluation of their classroom at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, so we see sort of what the progress looks like. It's based on the APERS, I think is what it's called, but it looks at sort of the whole classroom, and it looks at the structure of the classroom and relationships in the classroom and IEP development and lots of different components that it takes to have a highly structured classroom. So hopefully through this professional development and learning more about evidence-based practices and collaborating with each other, and then I'm going to do some coaching in those classrooms, we see some progress at the end of the year, but we won't know until the end of the year.
Right. Right. So the half-day professional development, what kind of things will you include in that?
I wish I had it in front of me. I have each one laid out as far as which evidence-based practice we're going to do. We're going to do like a takeaway every time, so like some sort of either a task box or some sort of visual schedule. We're going to have something that they take away. And then I had toyed with the idea of having them do some homework, like maybe read an article or some sort of homework that we would discuss at the beginning of our session. So that's the plan in a nutshell.
That's a great idea. Okay, so let me just make sure I have this correct, and then I'm understanding exactly what you're going to do. So you're going to have some half-day professional developments. Have you decided how many?
Quarterly. So
Quarterly, okay.
one at the beginning of the year, and then quarterly. So 5 total.
Okay, so you'll have 5 of those, and in each one you're going to target an evidence-based practice. And
That's
so,
going to be the main part of
okay,
of
so
it, yeah.
will you then model the practice, and then they can do some activities with that, and then they're going to walk out with something maybe?
Yep.
Okay, great. So like a make and take
Mhm.
type thing. And then you'll also have some web-based learning, which I think is great. Are those going to be self-paced type things? And
Well, a little bit of both. So there's some that we're going to do together. The ones that I think are the most critical that I want to make sure that we pause and discuss, they'll be together. But that might be one of the homework assignments is some self-paced. There's a lot of really great modules out there for teachers. So I'm sort of wading through the ones that I want for them to look at.
And that was going to be my next question, if you were going to develop those or if you were going to use ones that are already
I'm using
developed.
ones that are already made.
Okay,
for
great.
right now. And I'm going to connect them with our autism specialist here in the school system. She provides professional development too, and I was thinking about requiring them to go to 2 she offers a lot, but there are two that I think would be really critical for them. One's about data, and one's about like building language.
Okay, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And then when they do this web-based learning, will they be turning in something so you can monitor whether it's done, or how are you gonna?
I haven't really gotten that far.
Okay, so you haven't thought about that.
I don't.
piece.
Some of the modules have like a self-assessment, or like you can get a certificate printed out or whatever. I haven't really gotten that far.
Okay.
But that's a good thing for me to think about, to sort of hold them accountable for their learning.
Yeah, I mean, if you mentioned coaching, and part of the coaching piece is really that accountability, and we talked the first time about the success and failures would be yours as opposed to mine, because you're the one who's really experimenting and trying those things, and so you also want them to feel that, you want them to feel successful, or know that they need further work in certain areas, and reflect and have that self-discovery, and part of that will be making sure that they're accountable for what they need to do and get done.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a great plan. The beginning evaluation that you're going to use and the ending evaluation, is that something that's already structured that you found somewhere, or?
It's something I found that I modified to meet my needs. So I sort of a little bit of both, it's like a recipe. I just dutied it up a little bit and took some things out and made it my own. But I'm planning on bringing it to our leadership team to have them review it and make sure that they think that it's appropriate for our purposes.
Okay. And I think that's a great strategy to utilize the resources that you have around you. I think the behavior specialist, the autism specialist, is a wonderful resource. She knows lots of people in the autism realm, and could probably get you more resources if you needed them, or if there was something specific you wanted to target, she could probably find that for you. And then the other piece is, as there's lots of resources out there that you can tap into, the Autism Society, that kind of thing, and I can provide you with some more. And I really like the idea of you bringing it to the leadership team to kind of get their input, because a lot of the people on the leadership team have a background in autism, so that I think would be very helpful as well. Tell me a little bit about why you want to target. I know we talked a little bit about this the first time, but why those particular classrooms? What do you think will be the difference between providing something like this to the regular classrooms as opposed to the classrooms for students with autism?
There's a few factors. Number one, there's only 5 of them, and so I know I can really focus on them. The second is, just from being out in classrooms a lot, those are the ones that I see struggling the most, given the high needs of those students in that classroom. And most of our teachers don't come in with a background in autism, or even in special education in some cases, and so I feel like those classrooms require more support based on my observations. And those kids require more support. And if we're going to coin them as highly structured classrooms, they need to be highly structured, and I'm not seeing that on a regular basis.
Okay. So I want you to think about, just for future reference, because I have a feeling that you may get that question from some of your teachers. Why us? Why are you targeting us for this special development? And basically you've just written your goals, that you want to give them support for both the teachers and for the students, that you know that they have students with high need, and you want to provide them with strategies in a toolbox for those. And also, you see that some of the teachers are struggling with some of the really specific strategies that you need for children with autism.
Right.
And so, just some food for thought about thinking about, because that the teachers will ask you, why do we have to come to this?
Why do I have homework?
Right, what is this going to do for me?
Right.
And so, and that is part of adult learning. Adults want to know, how am I going to use this? What's this going to do for me? And I think you already know that. So just kind of putting that in writing. And I'll put that in our notes too, so you kind of have that.
Great.
But I think you've got a really good idea about where to go with that and how to kind of handle those questions. Sounds like a great plan. I think you're on your way for that goal. Now, it sounds to me like that's a goal you want to keep. Any changes or additions or anything you want to add or change for that goal?
I don't think so.
Okay.
New goals may develop as I'm in the thick of it too. I'm sure already knowing the teachers that we have, there's going to be resistance. There's going to be difficulty with carryover. I got to get the IAs to buy in. You know, it's not going to be as easy as it says on the paper because of the personalities of these teachers. So that's something that I foresee having to problem solve with a team in the future.
And that kind of goes back to your goal about conflict. And so, you know, you certainly have some new tools that you could use to work on that piece. But I think, like I said, key to that I think is going to be that purpose, you know, and really going into that program knowing what the purpose is, you know, and really helping teachers to understand that you are there as a coach, you are there to help them succeed and for them to build their skills.
Right.
You know, and I think they'll be open to that piece. I think sometimes they just wonder that, you know, why am I being targeted kind of thing.
Right.
But I also see that a lot of times they're very eager to have new skills, and you know, so I think we can tap into that, and I think that will be really helpful. I know that you we talked about the special ed knowledge, and you know, it sounds like you're doing great with that. Is there anything that I can help you with for that? Can I help you find some specific area that you're looking at?
You can cut open my head and pour all your knowledge into it.
That I can't do, but I can certainly, you know, continue to invite you to meetings and that kind of thing.
That'd be great. I'm hoping that maybe as part of this, I could be invited to maybe some of the EC leadership meetings, maybe.
Sure.
To sort of hear the discussions that are going on in those, and maybe attend some of the EC facilitators meetings might be helpful as well. To just maybe get some more insight into the decision-making processes, and also be on the up and up with the policies and procedures here within the school district.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay.
I'll make sure I get you added to those invite lists so you can go to those. Let's talk a little bit about your goal for prioritizing the attention for particular things. I know that we talked a little bit last time about you kind of having a lot going on in your life and a lot of things, and really looking at how to prioritize those as to which is most important, that kind of thing. How are you feeling about that one?
I'm feeling like having a plan for the classrooms has helped me sort of prioritize my attention. I think just the nature of this job is always going to be putting out the loudest fire first, you know, as the summer winds down and people are leaving and people are staying and, you know, things change. My priorities have to shift as well, but I think having a plan and really holding myself to that plan will help with prioritizing.
Okay. So have you come up with a plan? Are you using any particular strategies? How are you doing that?
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of taking things as they come. Now, when, you know, the phone's not ringing off the hook, I'm working on my plan for the classrooms and, you know, working with our coordinator to come up, you know, with a classroom visit schedule and things like that. It's just about making sure that I can get all that done when there is a fire that's out there, you know. But just really, I think I have to make myself realize that I need to be out supporting teachers, and then the emails can wait until I get back. Like that no one's going to like lose a limb or anything. Like I
Right,
can
over
make
an
sure.
email.
Yeah, you know, that I think that's really, I think prioritizing my attention to being in classrooms as often as possible, understanding that the other clerical sort of things can wait.
Okay. So just kind of think on this for a minute. You know, I know that you talked about these fires that come up, and that's the nature of education. I mean, there's nothing we're going to do to really help with that. But I think you've taken some really good steps towards that, because I do agree that focusing on the teachers that need that structure, that will help with some of those fires, because they'll become more able to handle those themselves. But think about how else you might be able to handle some of those fires. So what are some other things that you could do?
Pass them on to someone else who can handle the fire.
Well,
I mean,
and that's a
which is
good
true.
strategy.
I am really guilty of just doing it myself instead of saying, oh, maybe our administrative assistant can do that, or maybe I could send this call to so-and-so. That's a probably more of a personality issue than anything else. But yeah, I think it is not my job to put out every fire, and I have to remind myself of that a lot.
And, you know, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be helpful and wanting to make sure that you know, are involved and really kind of jump on things before they get bigger. I understand that. But I also know that time is limited and that you do have some very specific focuses.
Mm-hmm.
You want to increase your special ed knowledge. You want to work on your toolbox for conflict. You want to really work on those classroom pieces, and that's a lot. And so doing that and fighting every single fire that comes along, it can be overwhelming.
It can some days.
And, you know, and I know that you and I have had some conversations around how that feels, you know, that when you feel like you're drowning, it really, you're not getting a whole lot done because you're really trying to, you know, do all this thing. And so, you know, just kind of entertaining some other ways that you may be able to do that. Now, you may be able to go to someone else and have them help with that issue. It may involve some coaching in the beginning. You may not be able to just drop an issue in someone's lap and say, here, take this. But you might be able to give it to them, you know, like you said, the administrative assistant, and, you know, giving some coaching about how to handle that. We talked about, you know, practice makes you better.
Right.
And they may be able to do that. I know one of the things that's happening is we have a brand new person in the office, and she is routing every phone call to you know, or to whoever she can. And so that's an issue. And so, you know, I want you to think about, because I know you're really conscientious and you want to return all those calls and you want to get it all done, but I want you to think about the long-term effects of that and how it's making you feel. You know, you're feeling, you said, like you don't have a lot of time and like you're kind of being pulled in a lot of directions. So how could coaching her to handle some of those, how would that make your life better?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so just kind of thinking a little bit about that, and other solutions too. It doesn't have to be passing it off. Maybe there are other things that we haven't thought of.
Okay.
Who might you be able to like kind of bounce that off of and maybe get some ideas from?
My leadership team, I think, if I explain that to them, you know, I'm sure they would help me come up with some ideas.
Okay. It sounds like you feel comfortable with your leadership team and that they're supportive. So yeah, I mean, that might not be a bad idea because there could be things that you and I have not thought of that, you know, they may bring in, and, you know, there's nothing worse, I don't think, for me anyways, than feeling overwhelmed and kind of like inefficient because I can't get things done. And, you know, I know you have some really specific great goals, and I really want us to be able to focus on those and work on those, but I also know, you know, how it is, and the beginning of the year is always stressful.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the beginning of the year and the end of the year are the two most stressful times. For me anyways. I've been doing this a really long time, and I know that those two times are just going to be more stressful than normal, but there also are things that you can do to, you know, to kind of get through those as well. What else has been going on? Anything else that has been kind of stressing you out, or maybe was really great?
I think we've covered it. I not that I can think of
Okay.
right now.
Okay. So we have gone through all your goals. We talked about the conflict resolution. We talked about the special ed knowledge. We talked about building structure. And we also talked about the attention and prioritizing things. And we talked a little bit about how you're feeling as well. And also reflecting on how you think things are going. And it sounds like you're feeling pretty good about the way things are going. I don't want to put words in your mouth, so.
No, I think I still have a lot left to learn. Yeah, I think everyone does. But no, I feel like the support that I've been given has really helped.
Okay, good. One of the things that we talked about at the first meeting was that because this is new to both you and to me, that I was going to ask you to write a little reflection, just kind of talking about our coaching sessions and how you felt about them, what you think about my coaching skills, what, you know, I can improve on, what I did well, that kind of thing. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, that would be really helpful.
Okay.
It will help me to self-reflect and to learn.
Sure.
And you can do that. I will give you the email of where to send it, and you can do that and just send it. You don't have to copy me into it unless you don't mind doing that, but you don't have to.
Okay.
It can be confidential if you prefer it to be that way. Any questions or concerns, anything we didn't cover that you really wanted to touch on?
Are we gonna continue to meet and work on these goals as we have been?
Is that something you'd like to do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think that would be great if you're feeling comfortable and, you know, it's working and you're feeling some success, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I think,
We're meeting monthly now.
yes,
Yes. We can take it back to once every other month probably.
okay.
But yeah, I would like to continue to be able to touch it base.
Okay, great. And I will make sure that, you know, I've still identified some things that you wanted to work on. You wanted to look for some more special education kind of things, and I'll continue to do that.
Okay.
I will definitely hook you up with some resources for
Okay.
your structured teaching. And actually, I may know of a really good classroom that you could go look at. I have to
Okay.
see if that teacher is still teaching in that classroom.
That'd be
but
great.
She was fabulous
That would be
and
great.
really had a very structured classroom, and so maybe seeing that, you know, would be really helpful.
Absolutely.
So I will do that,
Okay.
and then let's keep in touch around the prioritizing. Yeah, I can speak. Prioritizing,
Yeah.
because I think that's always a stressful area, and really trying to manage that piece is, you know, for me anyways, it's a lifelong, you know, a lifelong pursuit. So let's talk about that and
Okay.
any new strategies that, you know, you tried and that kind of thing. How's the journaling coming along?
Good. I have to remind myself to do it. It's not something that comes naturally, but good. I think it helps me, like, especially when I look back and I say, oh wow, like I really knew nothing then, and then you know you get to a point where you know you look back on it and you can tell how much you've grown. So
Good.
yeah, I think it's good, and it's
Okay.
helped me to get my thoughts out on the paper.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, and I forget to do it too. It's not that, you know, you don't forget, you remember every day, but sometimes when you're having one of those really stressful days, or the opposite, you've tried something that worked really, really well and you want to remember that for the future. You know, sometimes you just remember it went really well, but you don't remember why. And
Right.
so trying to put that down on paper sometimes is really helpful.
Definitely.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate you
Yeah.
coming in, and we'll continue to meet. I will send you an email invite for the next meeting,
Okay.
and in between, we'll work on some of these steps.
Great. Sounds good.
All right, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Let me turn this off.